Hi, welcome to INCLIN 302. This is the course orientation for health assessment. The objectives are listed here, so pretty much introduce you to me and the other faculty. We'll talk about the syllabus and the purpose of the course and the lab and the lecture, what you'll be doing in each of those. I'll talk about grading, which is always high on everybody's list of questions, and then answering questions. Well, obviously I can't do that in a recorded talk, but I can answer questions by email, and also we can address some of those in class. Hopefully you'll have had the chance to watch this video before coming. Course faculty is me. You've got a picture of me probably on the Tegrity recording as well. My maiden name was Taby. You'll still see that around, and it's also remains my email, dmtaby. My office is 608D. That's on the 6th floor, all the way down by the western stairwell. So I'm in the front hall, the northern hall, near the stairwell. So if you go all the way to the end of the hall where the bathrooms are, that's near where my office is. I am in and out of my office throughout the day and throughout the week, so your best chance to get me is by appointment. I don't have standard office hours because I find that no one ever comes to them. I have had office hours in the past and actually had nobody come. So I do make myself available to you, but I like to do it by appointment. For this class, it's super important to check Canvas often. You're responsible for knowing when assignments are coming up, what communications are posted, and I really did try to make it as easy as possible for you. The content on Canvas, which I'll show you later in this video, is laid out week by week, and I've listed all the assignments so that they show up on the Canvas calendar. So even if you're not turning it in, something in on Canvas, like a test or something that's handed in on paper to your lab instructor, it still comes up on that calendar. So I hope that that'll help keep you organized, because I know that most of you have 5 classes this quarter, and that's a lot to keep track of. Do check your UW email often. You've already been told about this a couple of times, I'm sure. I find that every year some subset of people don't check their email enough and they miss something important. Don't just check your email, read the messages carefully. Be sure that you know what your instructors are asking, and we do try to not spam you with email. Back to Canvas, do check it online. Don't print out all the pages at the beginning of the quarter and go from there, because it's pretty common that I have to update something. So week by week, check the modules that are listed for lab and lecture. Also, Canvas will show you if something was updated, so you can check that as well to see if there were updates. Lecture is on Tuesday and Thursday. Thursday and Friday. Thursday 2:30 to 4:20, Friday 2:30 to 3:20. I think I might be your last class on Friday, so I will try to keep it interesting. Luckily, we're in the same room both days, which is really nice. And it's a decent room to be in. The format of lecture, I do have some traditional lecture where we have PowerPoint and I explain points to you. I try to make that a guide through what's most important to know. You'll be reading a lot of this out of the book, so I do want to review some of what's in the book but not be entirely redundant. I want to help you understand with more depth. I do a lot of demonstrations in class. So the technique for doing assessments, I'll definitely demonstrate things like that. And then in class learning activities, this isn't group work in the sense that everyone goes, oh, I hate group work, because it's not that kind of group work where you go off and do an assignment that you're graded on as a group. The in-class learning activities, mainly I put you in small groups and you think through things together. You might practice interviewing each other. You might look at a hard multiple choice question and discuss why the right answer is right. Things like that. They're learning activities. Labs are on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You have lab once a week, so some of you will have it on Tuesday, some of you will have it on Wednesday. I keep saying the wrong day. Tuesday and Wednesday. We have 4 lab instructors. Some of them teach 2 labs. They're all fantastic teachers, and I'm excited to have them all working with us. And you'll get a chance to meet them next week. Some key points about how the course is set up. It's numerically graded, 5 credits. It is an in-clin course, so as far as the school is concerned, your lab hours count as clinical, because they really are hands-on, clinically oriented experience. The lecture is 3 hours a week. It comes out to a little less than 3 hours with breaks and such. And the lab is about 3.5 hours a week. Your lab is 3 hours, 20 minutes, and then usually people will take a break when they're trading partners and changing clothes to practice the examinations. So you'll talk with your lab instructor about when breaks occur in the lab. There is independent learning time expected, of course. There are web-based videos to watch that also demonstrate how to do the examinations, and laboratory practice time. There are some open hours in the lab. You'll need to check with the lab staff about that. If you needed more practice, use the resource. Definitely take advantage of them. And then study time. This is the university standard. This isn't me telling you you have to read 3 hours per 1 hour of class, but the way hours are credited at the university, it's expected that there will be outside study 3 hours per 1 hour in class. So that's for the lecture course. This is a 3-hour lecture course, so that would be 9 hours of studying. That's a lot of time, but the take home about it is don't shortchange your study time. Make sure you have enough time to read and understand the material. And this particular class, you're going to be using these skills immediately in your clinical setting. So do take the time to understand the skills, what you're trying to assess, and you'll also need to integrate knowledge from anatomy and physiology. So that's not the main course of this, the main point of this class. I do review it some, but if you need to know more depth, you need to take the time to review that material on your own. The lecture objectives are listed in your course syllabus. Here's kind of a brief overview of them. We talk about the nursing process. If you're not familiar with nursing process, it's 5 steps, actually 6 steps, the way it's written out in some places, that kind of walk the nurse through how to approach patient issue, patient assessment. So this is assessment, diagnosis, not a medical diagnosis, but a nursing diagnosis. What is the care problem? Outcome identification. So what would tell you something has improved around this care problem? A plan. What are you going to do about the problem? Intervention. So actually doing the thing you planned, and then evaluation, where you see if those outcomes that you planned are actually met. So you'll learn more about that. I'll give a lecture on that, but we're focused mostly on assessment and then some on diagnosis in this class. We will be talking about developmental factors. So most of the course is oriented towards assessment of adults, but we'll talk some about children and older adults, and somewhat about pregnant women. Basic communication techniques. So you will develop communication for obtaining information, interviewing people, building rapport with your patient, and also communication that you'll need for actually getting the exam done, the head-to-toe exam. You'll learn minimum competency for performing physical examination, and that's important. We don't expect you to be an expert after this class. You're getting foundational skills, and mainly what we're oriented towards is having you learn that basic head-to-toe that you do during a shift examination. So when you go in and you're starting to take care of a patient and you do a fairly quick head-to-toe exam, what are the skills you need for that? And then we teach you some other skills that if you needed to get more information, you don't gather the information every time, but you have the skills to go more in depth into an examination oriented towards a specific problem. And then we'll integrate ideas around personal health, wellness, and professional values. The lab objectives are very similar to the course objectives in applying nursing process, communication, doing the skills well. There are also some professionally oriented objectives, organizing your time effectively and demonstrating professional accountability. So when you're in the lab, we expect you to carry yourself and be prepared as if you were in an actual clinical setting. You need to come prepared, you need to come on time, dress professionally, which for our lab means being in scrubs every time. And you need to be ready to go. You need to be ready to be competent in that setting. And what I mean is that we don't expect you to do the skills perfectly, but we expect you to have reviewed the materials and the videos, the readings and the videos, so that you're there ready to be on task. Grading of the course is based on both your lab and your lecture grade. To pass the class, you have to earn an average of 75% for the whole course. That's actually not a 2.0. That's an error. I think it's 1.7. I'm sorry. I'll have to go back and look at the syllabus. Okay, I paused the recording and checked on that. Actually, a 2.0 is the grade you have to get to pass the course, but that's 74%. You have to earn a 75% high or higher on the final exam. So even if your total course grade is passing, you have to pass the final. And the reason for that is because you have to be able, the final is comprehensive, and you have to know these skills to be able to do good nursing. I wouldn't be doing you or your patients a service by letting you continue if you haven't demonstrated that you know the basics of assessment. So you have to pass the final. And you also have to pass the laboratory component with 75% of the lab points. That's actually pretty easy to attain. And you have to pass a couple of skills checkoffs. One is the vital signs checkoff that happens within the first few weeks, and you have to do it the way we teach it, not the way you might have been taught by someone else. We have a very specific way, specifically of doing the blood pressure by 2 steps that we teach you, and you need to be able to demonstrate that you can do that. And then the final head to toe, which is the kind of examination you would do on a patient, say in the hospital. You'll demonstrate that. And it seems scary at the beginning of the course, but you'll be practicing it all quarter long. And by the time folks get to the end, people tend to do really well on this. Grades are based on the lecture and the lab grade. The lecture is 80 points out of the course, and because that's where most of the content is covered. The lab is applying and practicing the content, but you learn the content in the lecture. Participation is 6 points, so there will be probably about 8 participation exercises, and you'll get to drop a couple if you didn't show up for them, but 6 will count. So if you've missed class a lot, you're going to miss some participation points. You want to be sure to come to class. There are 2 homework assignments. They're worth 2 points each. They're pretty straightforward. They're written assignments just to apply principles covered in lecture, and we'll talk more about those as the quarter goes along. Obviously, they're not worth a ton of points, so they're not term papers. They're thinking exercises. And then the exams are what account for the majority of the points in the course. There are 3 exams. The first one is on the first several weeks. Second one is on the next few weeks. The second exam is not cumulative. It's just, the first exam is I think, let's see, the first exam is weeks 1 through 3. And then the second exam is 2 through 7. It's week 7. It's weeks 1 through 3 and then 2 through 7. And then the final exam it's cumulative, but with a greater emphasis on weeks 8 through 11. So about half of it will be weeks 1 through 7, and then half will be 8 through 11. And then the lab's 20 points. For the lab, you'll be practicing skills. The teaching assistants will help you practice. So you've already been oriented to the lab, I believe, by now. You've met Dr. Salveson, who's the director of the lab, and then there are some graduate students who are experienced nurses, and they'll be helping you practice throughout the lab. The text and your instructor are the final authority on how to do things. So if the lab instructor, if you ask them questions about the course, they should refer you back to your lab instructor. If there's any question about technique, your lab instructor should be the person to answer that question. Examples of abnormal findings will be available to you in the lab. We have some simulators that you can listen to abnormal heart, abnormal lungs, things like that. You are expected to bring your lab guide and your textbook to class every week. This counts as part of your participation. Don't try to lighten the load and leave these at home. You need to have them to guide your practice. The textbook, if you buy an electronic version of the textbook, you need to have it in a readable format in lab, not on your cell phone. Cell phones have to be stowed in the cubbies during lab. So if you have an electronic version, you need to either bring a tablet or bring, you might bring a printout of the pages you need, though I discourage that. Or you might share with a partner in your lab. Arrange to make sure that you guys are sharing amongst yourself in the lab, but you have to have some copy that is not on your cell phone. The lab grade, this is also in the syllabus. Participation, that should say 2 points. That 0 was in accident. I thought I deleted that, but it's still there. So it's 2 points. Your syllabus is correct. Lab write-ups are 10 points total. The first one is submitted for feedback from your lab instructor. It's required, but you don't get course points for it. It's practice. And then the next 10 listed here, you get 1 point each. Sometimes it's 2 write-ups a week, so it's not 1 per week. Some weeks there's 1 write-up, some weeks there's 2. The write-ups are due the second day, by the end of the second day after lab. So if you have lab on Tuesday, the write-ups are due by 5 o'clock on Thursday. If you have lab on Wednesday, the write-ups are due by 5 o'clock on Friday. Your instructor will tell you how to turn them in. Some of them like them emailed, some of them like them on Canvas, some like them in their box. They'll tell you how to turn it in. You'll do a write-up of health history and your physical exam at the end of class, of the whole course, and we'll review that more as that's coming up. And then, like I said, you have to pass the vital signs checkoff, and you have to pass the head-to-toe exam. We've already talked a little bit about Canvas. That's the course web page. Consult it every week to download the lecture slides and the things you need to bring to lab, what you need to bring to class. I tried to make it pretty straightforward for you. And like I said, don't print it all out at the beginning because there might be some things that change throughout the quarter. Let's see. I'll go ahead and show you the Canvas page. There we go. So here's Canvas. This is the student view. My view as an instructor is a little bit different. And there's the home page, which is the syllabus. So when you click straight in to the, oops, it got me out of the student view. Let me go back into that. Student view, there we go. Okay, you have on the left some tabs to navigate The home page is the syllabus, which you can see here is kind of what I've been going through, but just in a single document form. Do read the objectives of the course so that you know what it's all about. We've got the lecture objectives, the lab objectives, some principles of the course like self-evaluation, lab attendance, and behavior. The textbooks are listed. The texts are in a bundle over in the UW bookstore. I only offer support to materials bought through the bookstore because I have no idea what the varieties of vendors out there offer. So I know what you've bought through the bookstore. That's why I go through the bookstore. If you want to save some money, go ahead. You're welcome to do that, but it's your responsibility to figure out that it matches what is required for the course and how to manage those materials. Required equipment are basically the same as clinical. You've got to have a lab uniform. Actually, the lab jacket you'll need in clinical, but you don't need to wear that. Just the scrubs you'll need to wear to the lab. You need to wear your identification badge just as if you were in clinical. You need a stethoscope with both a diaphragm and a bell. The stethoscopes, the Littmann stethoscopes, some of them have what's called a tunable head. Light pressure is a bell, firm pressure is a diaphragm. You need to be sure that you're using it properly. Some have an adult side and a pediatric side, and they're both the tunable heads. We'll check in with you and make sure that you know how to use those, because some people think that there's a side that's a bell that's not really a bell. It'll make more sense when we explain it to you in person. But yeah, you need a diaphragm, a stethoscope with a diaphragm and a bell. A watch that has the capabilities of counting seconds, because you'll be taking pulses and such. Some people like to have a clipboard. It's not required, but it's nice. Academic integrity, make sure you know our policies. For me, if I discover plagiarism, I find a lot of students don't really understand plagiarism, and sometimes it's unintentional. There are still consequences. If it's a pretty innocent thing that happened, I might make you redo the assignment. If there was intentional plagiarism, the consequences are usually greater and may even result in 0 credit. So don't plagiarize. Be sure you give credit for where you get ideas from. Communication. For me, communicate with me on Canvas. I'll show you up here at the top of the page. Oh shoot, it doesn't show in the student view. I'll go out of the student view for a moment to show you. See, there's this inbox up at the top. That'll take you into kind of an email for Canvas, and that's where I prefer to get communications around the course. Because, let's see, let me go back into the student view. Yeah, use the Canvas messaging, because that helps me keep track of the messages from you guys better than in my inbox. You know, I have messages from about all sorts of different things in my email inbox, but my messages on Canvas are just about the course. So I prefer for you to email me there. Let's scroll back down to where we were. Use good netiquette. You know, use this as professional communication. Be respectful in your emails for the course. I do post grades in Canvas. Those are up here on under the grade tab, right here, grades. I can't click into that because it shows student IDs and such, but you'll only be able to see your own grades. These are the grading criteria that I talked about in the PowerPoint. In addition, you're expected to maintain professional behavior and be able to do the skills that we're teaching you in the class. So there aren't course points for that, but you have to meet these behavioral standards to pass the class as well. And usually people don't have a problem with that. It would only become an issue if there's some reason that someone's not performing up to a reasonable standard, but I've never really had to use these as a pass-fail kind of criteria. Again, I showed you this before. This is just a quick guide to where the points for your grade come from. Late work is 10% off per day that it's late, not accepted after 3 days, because at that point it would be a failing grade anyway. Read the information on examinations. You need marks and sheets, so those bubble sheets from the UW bookstore, the full-sized ones, not the little half sheets. And you'll need a number 2 pencil for each of the tests. If there's some reason that you have an emergency and can't make the test, you need to email me before the test, not after. And people that for some reason need to make up a test are actually always given some kind of an alternate version. It's not the same as the test that was given in class. If you're not happy with the test item, I do give the test back. I get the grades out pretty quickly because I know you guys are nervous about that, which is understandable. If you feel like a test item wasn't really fair or clear, you have to email me with an explanation, and if it's that you're contesting the factual information in the question, you have to reference course material. I will not discuss the test with somebody in the classroom. I just find that it doesn't go well for anybody. It becomes kind of a tense situation, and I find that the conversations just always go better if you present rationale first and then we talk after a time. I do my best to make sure that the tests are fair and am willing to consider questions that weren't good questions perhaps. The grading scheme is listed here. The assignments due are at the very bottom of the syllabus. These participation points are kind of at the bottom because I'm not sure exactly what class sessions they're going to fall on right now. But they're credit, no credit. Everything else, the dates that they're due, are listed in sequence. And this is both your lab and your lecture assignments that are listed here. So you can find the assignments here. If you click into them, they'll have a description and also the documents you need to link from there. And you should also be able to get to your assignments from the calendar, which is over here on the right side of the page. So like here's a chart note that's due on the 9th. I click on, let's see, yeah. Let me go up to the top, and actually I can go into the calendar from the top of the page. There we go. And you can see the assignments due also on the top of the page. And you can click into the assignment and see more. So that's kind of nice. Let's get back to the course website. Okay. And then when you click into, let's see, announcements, there's some extra information in there. Anything that's practical information that I think I need to pass along, or sometimes clarifying points from lecture, I'll put in here. So here's instructions on enrolling in the video series in case you had trouble with that, and also how to prepare each week. So it's some tips on how to focus in your readings for preparing for lecture each week. So home is the syllabus, announcements is some practical information, and then modules is where the meat and potatoes of the class is. The topics are listed on the main page, and then you click into either lecture or lab and you'll see what you need to read and what the objectives are for that week. So click into lecture. Week 1, you'll see the overview of what we're going to do, the purpose and objectives, and then I always highlight it in green where your readings are so that your eye can find it easily, hopefully. The assigned readings. For the health assessment readings, I have study guides. They're not study guides where I wrote out every individual thing that you need to know. Your study guide is your lab manual. The content in the lab manual is really good. It's got a glossary, it's got short answer thinking questions, and it's got multiple choice questions. You don't need to turn it in, but it behooves you to do it, to actually use the lab guide to guide your understanding of the material. So this is a Word document. You click on it and you can open it. And let me pull it over where you can see it. So you can see I have a little explanation. I tell you what chapter in the lab manual you need to look at. And then for the glossary, the short answer questions, and the multiple choice, if there's something that I didn't feel was real relevant or that I'm not going to test you on it, it's in more depth than you need to know, I said to skip it. So this will help you narrow down a little bit what you're focusing on in the lab guide. I'll post my PowerPoints here. They are not up yet because I revise these every year. So I try to get them up at least a few days before lecture so that you can download or print them. But don't be worried that the links are dead. They're getting revised as I go through the quarter. So if there are 3 topics for the week, you'll see it's separated by lesson. Lesson 1, course intro. You've got purpose, objectives, readings, and then the PowerPoints at the bottom, and then you'll see lesson 2, lesson 3. They're all organized the same way throughout the quarter. Lecture, and then the lab. Similar idea. At the overview, what we're doing that week in lab, what to bring. This is really important. Be sure that you check it every week and bring exactly what it says to bring. That's part of your participation. Purpose and objectives. What do you need to read or watch? If there are videos, I have some guides in the videos because things to focus on more than others or how to understand what they did. Those are also Word documents that you open that are linked in this page. And then in-lab activities. What exactly will you be doing? And then what's due at the end of lab. So the assignments due from lab, the write-ups and the chart notes, those are both listed here on the lab module page and also over in the calendar. And I told you about grades already, so that should complete the overview of the course web page. Let's go back to, back to finish up. There we go. Equipment, we already talked about that in the syllabus. Add to that list your scrubs. You need to wear those every week. And check Canvas for what to bring. Oh yeah, you should have already checked out a patient gown in INCLIN 306. You need to bring that to INCLIN 302. You'll have to change into the gown to do patient examination. You'll have to play the patient for practicing examination in the lab. Feel free to wear a sports bra or shorts for modesty. That's okay. But you have to wear it, under the gown. For all School of Nursing courses, be sure you're familiar with the essential qualifications. The link is here. It's also in the syllabus. These are sort of our basic requirements of nurses in general. These are national standards. These were not made up by the UW. Attendance policy. The school has an attendance policy. You are expected to be present for the coursework. The labs are required. You have to be at every lab. There are no excuses for anything except emergency situations, and that includes Thanksgiving. If some people have Wednesday lab the afternoon before Thanksgiving, you will not be excused to leave early. You have to stay through that lab. Exams, sometimes your final exam is not at the end of exam week, but don't plan to leave without talking to your instructors. Sometimes people need that final week to meet course objectives, especially if they're having trouble in class. So part of our attendance policy is that you are expected to be here through the end of exam week. Review professional behaviors. Nursing is it's a vocational track, really. This isn't just academic topics. You're training to be a professional here. So behave professionally throughout your time here, especially in the lab. And social media. This is the last thing. I'm going to be done. Your professional role is to serve patients. Do not engage in social contact with patients, and that includes internet contact. You're not to friend them on Facebook, Google+, Twitter, email them. None of that is appropriate. As far as my social media use, I don't accept friend requests from students, and that's because to be an objective, because my role isn't, I want to be friendly with students, but my role isn't to be a peer. And so to maintain a professional relationship, I feel like it's not appropriate to be friends with students until you're no longer a student and you are a colleague or a peer. So it's not that I don't want to be your friend. I am flattered by friend requests. I think it's really nice that if people would want to, be my Facebook friend, but I don't do it. And don't ever use text message abbreviations or slang in healthcare charting. I have seen it happen, and just it's everywhere, so sometimes people get sloppy. Don't do it. Be careful about it. All right, any other questions? You can email me or ask me in class. I'm sorry if that took a long time, but I hope it answered a lot of your questions. All right, see you soon.